If you've never had fruit on a pizza before, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, have not lived. If you're one of those people that are like, ew, pineapple on pizza. First of all, you're wrong. Second of all, try figs on a pizza.
That's taking it to the next level.
I have been dying to make this pizza for literally weeks and weeks and weeks, and I had such a craving for figs. I had it in my mind that this is what I was gonna make. I knew exactly how I was gonna execute it, but I could not get figs in the grocery store.
That looks absolutely spectacular.
Thank you.
I just can't, and the fact that like you literally just halved them.
Yes.
Like that looks gorgeous. You didn't go stingy.
No.
That's a lot of fig on there.
No, and I was so appreciative of the fact that I finally found figs because it was literally weeks and weeks. So much so that the grocery store girl and I had this like ongoing joke that she was like, sorry, we still don't have your figs. And I was like, why? So when she finally gave them to me, I was like, here we go, fig pizza all the way.
Black Mission?
Yes.
Nice. Those are the best. Actually, well, the green ones are good too, but the black ones are incredible.
But this
sweeter.
Yes. And this is more of a fig focaccia, I would say. It's not as much a pizza.
A pillowy base.
Yes, it's with very minimal toppings. So the first thing that I did was put together the dough. If you've never made a homemade pizza dough, you definitely have to try it. It's super easy. It's very fast to do. It literally takes 10 minutes to bloom the yeast. I used honey in this, but if you don't want to use honey, you could obviously use maple syrup or regular sugar.
Homemade pizza dough is something that once you do it, you'll feel super proud of yourself. It's one of the main things that you're like, when you make it, you're like, that's all it took. And yet I feel super proud of myself.
And you have all the ingredients, chances are, in your house right now. The yeast, the flour, they're not specialized ingredients. And you can use any sweetener you want. I'm using Peace River hot honey because I'm going to be drizzling that on the top. So I like to I'm using it on top. I may as well just put it right in the dough. It's not super spicy. It's just a little bit spicy. And it definitely works the same as sugar if you're going to use it in a dough.
Am I lazy? Because I will make a pizza dough as opposed to going to the grocery store to go buy one.
It's faster.
It seems like it's like, well, you're making a pizza dough from scratch. How is that lazy? But like, to me, it's lazy because I don't want to get up to go to the grocery store. Make it at home. It saves a trip to the grocery store.
And I don't like that when you buy it from the store, it's almost where we live, it's almost always frozen.
So you gotta wait for the thaw out process. It never is as puffy as your homemade dough.
And it takes forever, so you have to thaw it out and then let it rise, and it never rises up the same. So that's why I do just like to make it. And I find it to be a relaxing process.
Dough is, for some reason, there's something about dough that like is like soothing, making your own. It's like the touching it, the kneading it. It is soothing for some reason.
Yeah. And then once you make it, I never let it rise in the same bowl that I made it in. I'm sure you could, but I like to start with a fresh bowl that's lightly oiled.
You know why you don't want to do that?
Why?
Because if you have, the bowl that you make it in has like remnant bits along the side, and then like as it rises, it gets stuck to that area.
Oh, does it?
Yes, and it's harder to get out. So always either wash the original bowl, which I typically do, or just get a straight up fresh bowl, which I like that you oil that. You can butter it, you can oil it.
And then I always just put it in a warm place like the wood stove. That works really well.
Look.
An hour later, you definitely have to put it somewhere warm. Otherwise, it's going to take a long time and it's not going to rise as puffy. So a lot of people they'll turn their oven on and then just shut the oven off so it's just a little bit warm and then stick it in there. But the wood stove works really well. And then I just oiled up a cast iron skillet. And
the cast iron skillet, bottom of a focaccia.
It gets so crunchy. It gets so nice and browned. If you have a cast iron skillet, make sure to use it for pizzas because it's something else.
The shape of it too, like it's like the perfect size because then that's when you get that focaccia like bottom because it doesn't have that much space like to expand.
Exactly.
So you get that pillowy bottom.
Yes. And I like to just lightly oil my fingers. It makes it easier when you're pushing it down into the corners. And make sure that you have a seasoned cast iron, otherwise it will stick. So that's the most important tip.
Stick City, baby.
Yes.
You don't want that happening.
And you can use some parchment on the bottom if you wanted to, but as long as it's seasoned, you're fine. So here are my prized figs that I finally got after weeks and weeks of waiting for them.
That's it? That's all that comes in that package?
I was disappointed. It was a very tiny package, and it took all my power to not eat some.
You didn't even eat one on its own?
I ate one, but I wanted to save them for this pizza. And so here I am trying to determine, how do I cut these? How do I want them to look on the pizza?
But you did to me, you did them perfectly. In half, they'll get charred a little bit on the outside and warm and crunchy on the inside, but still have that sweet, gushy, squishy texture on the inside.
Yes.
If you quartered them, I think it would just be like mushy.
Yeah, and you wouldn't get, I wanted it to have a beautiful presentation.
Yes.
So you could,
my God, they're gorgeous.
if you're not into figs or you can't find them, you could use another fruit. You could use plums maybe, or peaches or something like that.
That's a completely different direction though.
But why not just try figs?
Yes.
Be open
Not
to
the
trying
same.
them. And if you've had dried figs, do not base them, like, don't judge them the same. Dried figs and fresh figs are like night and day.
However, though, they are delectable.
They are.
Dried fig in a salad, like on a salad, cubed up on a salad, it is like, they're obviously a completely different product. That's like saying, is a raisin the same as a grape? Drastically different, but they're still good on their own.
But if you've never had them fresh, try to find them, because you're going to be in for a real treat here. So
absolutely stunning.
Here's what they look like when they're all just cut in half, trimmed,
Good call.
washed. And then we're gonna I'm just gonna breaking apart this cheese here. This is a plant-based cheese because I wanted to enjoy this pizza. And you could use any cheese you want here.
Is
feta.
this like a feta? Like, what is this supposed to be?
This is like it's like a spicy feta.
Ooh.
So because I'm gonna drizzle with some hot honey.
Hot spicy.
Yeah.
Or just like herby feta.
No, it's spicy.
Ooh.
That's why I said spicy, Maddie. Spicy means spicy.
Yeah, but spicy can also mean like there's other spices in there.
No, it's just it's like it
hot.
is, yes. And I wanted to caramelize some onions for this as well, because something like
you went
this
that extra mile.
and a pizza like this or a focaccia like this, very few ingredients, but you want to make sure that every ingredient that's going on there is going to be really awesome. So I wanted to point out how I'm cutting the onions here.
Yeah, interesting.
I'm not cutting them in your typical like little half moon shape that everybody does, where you cut an onion, you put it on the flat side, and then you just give it. I like to have these. You'll see when the shape of them is a little bit different. They
look like a moon shape.
Yeah, and it's kind, yeah, exactly. It's like a moon, or to me it reminds me of like a flower petal.
Ooh.
Almost. I've really been enjoying cutting onions this way lately.
Cool.
I don't know
no,
why.
but I get that. Cutting things in it, you know how like you can get like a ridge knife?
Yes.
Cutting a carrot, not baby carrots, like actual carrots with a ridge knife, to me means stir fry.
Yeah.
That's like, and that's gonna have a different vibe than like just a regular slice of a carrot. Cutting things in a different way makes them different.
And texturally, it is a little bit different.
Yes.
And so all I did with the onions was I just put a little bit of balsamic in there as well.
Ooh.
But you can find the recipe below if you want to recreate this in the exact same way. And then there's nothing really to this. You just add the cheese exactly like you would. So unlike a pizza, there's no obviously marinara sauce on the bottom here, any sauce.
Marinara and fig?
No.
Absolutely not.
So that's not technically a pizza. That's why I said it is more like a focaccia, because there's not a ton of things on top.
But you could have done like a garlic oil along
if you
the
wanted
bottom
to,
if you wanted to.
But I just wanted to let these few ingredients really shine. And so there's a lot of onion there, but like I said, there's a lot of cheese, onion, fig. That's all that's going on this.
Those do look like petals.
See, and texturally it is different.
I'm into it.
Yeah, and you're
not going stingy with the onions, you're not going stingy with the cheese, and you're certainly not going to go stingy with the figs. Minimal ingredients, but a lot of them.
Yes, and sometimes I find if you put too many things on them, are you really noticing like 15 ingredients back?
Everything gets lost. Then you're not appreciating the crust. You're not appreciating all the toppings.
Yes.
Like, look at how gorgeous that is.
So then I just took the figs and tried to make sure that I was evenly spacing them out.
I feel like I'm drooling and like getting a lot of spit in my mouth right now looking at this.
And then just like taking them and pushing them down a little bit so they're not sticking up in the dough as it cooks, and then the dough will rise around them.
Ooh.
And then I also took the time to just black pepper the top.
Yes. Okay, again, minimal ingredients. Did you do a coarse grind?
I think I did a regular grind, like a finer grind.
A coarse grind. You know, I've been into coarse grind lately. I like a little bit of bite to it, a little bit of a chew.
Sometimes it gets stuck right in your tooth, though.
Yeah, but then if you do a fine grind, it's like I feel like it gets lost.
Mm-hmm. So then I'm using the gasser for this, and I'm gonna be cooking it over indirect heat. So right in the middle, that's the mom method, which is medium off medium. So the cast iron is gonna go in the off section, so I'm not worried about burning the bottom.
You could do this in the charcoal grill though to give that figs and charcoal flavor would be out of this world.
It absolutely would.
And with the caramelized onions. But
Yep.
this is great. This, if you use a gasser to make this goes from like a weekend kind of vibe to a weekday vibe.
Yes.
Who can have fig pizza homemade weekday? You're living life if you're doing that.
Yes, and you can, it's exactly like the oven, and you can just set it and forget it. You're not worried about anything burning. You can just go back in 45 minutes later, check
My
that
goodness.
out.
It's caramelized city, baby. Everything's looking brown. Everything's looking crispy, but those figs are still intact. They're not cooked down to nothing here.
If I could describe the smell of this pizza to you guys, it was the ultimate sweet and savory. There's something about cooked onions that just gets me every time. It's like garlic. It's just one of those smells that is so amazing.
I take it back about the garlic olive oil because that would overpower everything.
Thank you.
I take it back.
So then once it cooled off a little bit, and I wanted to give it a little bit of pop of color, a little bit of crunch because I was serving this right away. So right there are some broccoli sprouts that I had. If you didn't have broccoli sprouts, you don't have to use those. You could also just use some chopped chives or green onion or...
You know what I like that you're not saying here? You know what I think has had its moment in the sun a little too long at this point?
What?
Arugula.
Oh.
I don't know why everyone's like, you make a nice pizza, you throw some arugula on there.
Yeah, no.
It's spindly, it's hard to eat, it's not really that peppery.
No, it isn't.
I don't see, like, and it takes away from the look. What are those
broccoli
called?
sprouts.
Yeah, the sprouts don't take away from the pizza, but they still add a little bit of crunch to
a little bit of
freshness.
freshness.
Bit of color. Yeah.
And a little bit of freshness. And then I drizzled over some hot honey.
Yeah, look at that dough. Look
at
how puffy that dough is.
If you don't eat honey, if you wanted to make this 100% plant-based, I am vegan, but honey doesn't bother me. I have no issues consuming honey. But if you do and you don't want to use it, you could absolutely use maple syrup.
Ooh.
And you could even put some chili flakes in the maple syrup to make that
or just on the top of the pizza.
Hot maple syrup. But if you can have that Peace River hot honey, boy,
it's good stuff.
Let me tell you, it was so good. Definitely one to make. Nice for those summer evenings when you want to just throw something on the grill, have a little light salad on the side.
Ooh.
Spectacular.